The last time we had our G20 M340i on the lift, we were installing the all-new CSF Super Manifold, which looks amazing and keeps our B58 nice and cold. But in today's video, we are completing the CSF cooling package by adding their upgraded heat exchanger, transmission oil cooler, and auxiliary coolers. So with that, let's get started. For today's video, we have a lot to do in a little bit of time, so we are going to fly through this installation, but along the way, we are going to give you some helpful tips and tricks, and we're not gonna have fluff, and we're not gonna show you what's for lunch. So with that, why don't you get your car off the ground? We're going to be using a lift. We only really use a lift for video purposes. It is completely overkill for this project. You're going to need to drain out some of the coolant, take off the front bumper, and if you can do that and then fill the coolant back up, those are pretty much the hard parts of the install. But again, we're gonna walk you through all of it to make it super easy so that you can do this on your driveway. So get out your jack and jack stands, ramps, or if you happen to have a lift in your garage, and get that car off the ground. All right, first thing we're gonna do before we actually get this thing too high off the ground is I'm going to vent the systems here for our coolant reservoirs. It's always a good idea to see if your car's eating coolant. Mine's good, so that's good. All right, with that, I'm going to get the car a little bit off the ground. We are going to probably do a couple extra steps in the sake of video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off the wheels in the front. We're going to lock it up, and then I'm going to drain out some of the coolant. We'll show you where and how to do that, and then we'll go from there. All right, now that the car is up in the air, I want to drain a little bit of coolant. So to get to it, I'm going to need to take down this little piece of underbody protection. The perimeter is held in with just some 10 millimeters. So at this time, let's remove all of these. Okay, put that right there. Next, there's a T30 on either end. We're gonna remove this piece of plastic here. So you can just do this one by hand, and then go grab that second one. Okay, there you go. And because I'm using my Wera driver, it holds it. Nice and convenient. If you look, there's a little clip up here that's holding this piece in. So what you can do is just take your hand and just press against this, and then you can release that clip and pull it down like that. And then let's release the clip on this side. So if you look in here, you push the clip in there, and then that releases like that. So if you look, there's a little clip over here, and there's a little slot over here. And if you look up here, you can actually see where the clips are. So there's one right here, and then there's one on the opposite side right over here. Next, you're gonna wanna take a pick tool. I like to use these rounded ones. So if you slip, you don't need a new coolant line. Just take it in this little C-clip, pull it back like that, and then wiggle that loose and make sure you have some kind of coolant container ready to rock, because coolant is about to go everywhere. I'm going to try to be as out of your way as possible here. There we go. Oh man, I missed. Make sure you don't do it when it's hot, because you will get super burnt right there. This car's been sitting overnight, so perfectly fine to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this 10 mil, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then I will disconnect the bumper from the fender. So I'll pull this back, take out those bolts. Then we're gonna take out the 10 mils across the front, and then do the same on the other side. The aux cooler is right here, and same on the other side. And then once we get the bumper out of the way, you guys are gonna see, you're gonna have a much better understanding of how everything gets mounted with the front mount heat exchanger. All right, so to disconnect the bumper from the fender, you need an 8 mil. There's a bolt right here, and there's another bolt right back there. While you're here, there is a PDC clip over here, so you are going to want to disconnect that. So let me get these bolts out, and then I'll do that. Okay, so then we have our PDC sensor we need to disconnect. So what you do is you pull this little gray plug out, so it's in like that. Just take your nail, pop it out like that, and then you press on it, and then pull it off. Now, while we're here, if some of you are just installing the auxiliary radiators, we want to show you how to do it without needing to remove the bumper and whatnot. So if you take a look back here, it's just like the F80s and actually the 335 and whatnot. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So while we're here, I'm just going to take out the rest of the bolts on this half of the fender liner. We'll fully drop it out. I'll show you how to change it. It literally takes 5 minutes to do it. And then from there, we'll continue on our bumper, and then we'll do the same on the other side, and then we'll do the heat exchanger, and then we'll finish up last with the cooler. All right, so then we're going to disconnect our connections. Okay, so pull that off like that. All right, just gonna use my little pry bar for a little assistance there. I really have to go to the bathroom now. All right, now do the same to the top one. Boom. Whoa, my gosh.
Jeez.
Now on the F80s, you used to be able to just do that and then just literally just pull them right out. These have these little like nub things. There's one down here, one over here, and then up top. So I'm gonna take a 13 mil and just pull this off and that off. Okay, and last is a 10 mil up here. Pull that off. There we go. And now that we've done that, there we go. All right, cool. Yeah, so a little different design than they used to do it. It's almost like the way I thought it went in was now just like a rock guard. So a little interesting, but still super easy to do. And you certainly don't need to remove the bumper or anything to do this. All right, so on the table we have the OEM piece and the CSF piece side by side. Do want to say that this works on a couple different G20s. It works on the G20 320 and also the M340. Both of these fit either left or right side. They are interchangeable. I believe F80 is the same way. These don't work on the F80, but they also work on the Z4 and also the SUPRA. So if you're a SUPRA guy, you definitely want to check these out as well. As you can see, the end tanks are all billet aluminum. Everything is, I love the fit and finish of this piece. I think it looks like a masterpiece. Can't wait to get it on the car. And it has a built-in metal rock guard opposed to this little terrible looking funky one from BMW that just harbors dirt. So let's go throw this one on the car. All right, so as we said before, it is plug and play. You don't have to modify anything, which makes it super convenient. Just gonna navigate this in here. Navigate that down. It's easiest if you navigate the outer side in first, and then that'll fall right into place. So as you can see, without the bracket even, it's already holding itself up. And this piece is going to go across the top. Make sure that you slide it into the grommet. I love the fitment on this thing. It's so good. And I love the black too. I think it's stealth. And what I do is I'm just gonna snug it up. These are not very tight from the factory. So I'm not gonna kill it, just gonna go until it snugs up. Then what you can do is just take this little clip, press it in like that. You just take it, and then you wanna make sure that you press it on and hear an audible click. Okay, once you hear that click, just give it a little test and you're good to go. And then you can do the exact same thing on the bottom. Clip it in, boom, done. So one thing I really like about it too is it looks even much higher end when you look through the grill. Like when you look through it, it just looks so nice. But when you look over at the factory one, it just looks all plasticky and cheap. So you get some looks along with it as well. Let's go back to what we said we were gonna do and remove the bolts for the bumper. All right, so our cooler is fully installed over here. I went ahead and I disconnected the PDC. There's another wire harness up here you need to disconnect. And then down, where is it? There it is. You have ambient temperature sensor. So now that I've done that, we can lower the car a little bit, get some of those bolts off the top, and then we'll be able to pull the bumper off. All right, so now we're gonna start by removing some of these rivets. We'll get this plastic out of the way, and then there's some bolts we need to get out from under there. Oh, if you haven't done these before, sorry. Pop the middle up, and then you can pop the bottom up. Sometimes the middle will pop completely out. Sometimes it'll come out as one little unit. So there you go. And then when you go to reinstall them, just push it back in, and then once you push that in, it's going to spread these out and hold everything nice in place. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it back. There you go. And then it's going to pop off. These little clips right here, they fasten onto this plastic over here and then over here. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to remove this T30, this T30, and that T30. Okay, so at this point, the only thing holding the bumper on are these little clips. If you can see that, there's one here. I'm gonna pull out a little bit. I can't see, but hopefully you can. There's one there. There's one there. And at this point, I'm ready to just give this a little pop and pull the bumper off. Okay. And once you have the bumper out a little bit, you can probably just reach your hand down before you even get this far. Make sure you unplug this connection. All right, this last connection's giving us a little trouble, which is weird because car stuff normally goes perfect. So we're gonna pull the grill. See if this makes it a little bit easier for us to. Oh, that's how you do it. Perfect. Golden. That was annoying. Perfect. So this clip connects into your camera. It's very tight fitting, but I haven't removed one of these in a very long time. So I was looking for a tab like this, but you have to squeeze on the side. And it's more so like a BMW vacuum line, like when we did the charge holder. So now that we have that removed, we can continue on with our process. All right, so now that we have this off, you guys can see what's going to be going on. So we have the cooler up here, which is going to get replaced. And then we also have the heat exchanger, which sits behind that. So I'm going to take my 13 and I'm going to pull off this top cover, and then we're going to explain the process as we go. There's a T30 over here, and over here. If you watched our video of us doing this on a Supra, it's a very similar process. Okay. And it's T30 time over here. Okay, then you have a T30 over here. Okay, then we're going to remove these covers. Little tab down here. Okay, then I'm going to pull this out of there. So basically you just need to loosen this up. This is your fan. So once you get that loose enough, this will be able to pull back out. And then to get it back in, you want to make sure that you get these little grooves. You have to get this little notch here in the groove. So just something to think about. So when you go to remove it, you kind of bend it down a little bit, and then when you go to reinstall it, you do the same thing. You just kind of move stuff around and then bend it down. But I don't want to do that yet, so we're not going to. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, we have a connection over here for our heat exchanger. The heat exchanger always sits in front of your main radiator. Okay, so let me grab my pry tool. Okay, push the clip down so I don't lose it. Okay, so then you can grab your heat exchanger, start to pull it up, just like if you were pulling out like a radiator. You just have to watch your hose over here because it wants to get kind of caught. There you go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to remove this lower rock guard. It is going to get replaced. If you look over where my finger is, you can see that there's this little tab. So just pull that like that. Okay, do the same on the other side and pull that out. Then on the other side, you're gonna pull this little tab back. And I'm going to pull this up here. This one has the tab the other way. Okay, and you're gonna put this in a safe place. All right, so the last thing we need to do is we need to remove the trans cooler, which is located right here. It is held in, it's basically the same design as this one here from CSF, where it has your in and your out up here, and then it also has two little tabs that are going to mount into a plastic bracket. Now, with the CSF Cooling Suite here, it is going to mount to itself instead of the plastic bracket because the sizing and the proportions, this is a lot bigger. It's going to hold a lot more capacity, which is going to help with your cooling. That being said, they had to make some changes, and instead of you having to cut and whatever over there, they just give you this cool little bracket, which makes it super simple. I've already pre-assembled it. If it falls off while I'm talking, it's still loose. So we need to remove the automatic transmission cooler. Now you are going to spill some fluid, so you will need to have a little bit of trans fluid on hand. I like to use the Liqui-Moly ATF 1800. That's what we use in the 335 and some of the other cars. And I have a giant tank of it over there, so we use it all the time. So that being said, let's talk about that for a second. Now, the official BMW process is to hook up BMW software to your car, and you get the car to a certain temperature, you let it run, and then you do some tests and whatnot, and the system is going to automatically go through and detect if you have the appropriate amount of fluid or not. However, 99.99% of you doing this at home aren't going to have access to that software, so we're going to show you how to do it without it, and then at a later date we are going to actually show you how to do it with some software. It gets a little bit more involved, but this is going to be very practical for what you guys are going to be doing. So basically what I'm going to do, I am going to disconnect this cooler. I have a pan under the car right now. I'm going to drain the trans fluid in there. Then before I go to install this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Liqui-Moly ATF fluid 1800 and I am going to fill this, because the bulk of what we're going to lose, because all the fluid right now is draining down, the bulk of the fluid that we're going to lose is just what is in here. So my thought is if I fill this up as much as I can, it's going to make the amount that we lost so minimal that it's probably not even worth figuring out how much extra you lost if you lost a couple extra drops. So without further ado, I'm going to remove it. All right, the way that these clips work, there's this little tab down here you're going to press down, and then on the other side, and then you're going to pull up here. So my hand is going to be completely in your way. Okay, so push them back. There you go. So as you can see, I pushed it back, and then honestly I just used that. I didn't even really pull up here. I just kind of pushed them up through there. So let me make sure this is up as high as it wants to go. And then that is ready to pop off. So let's look down here. All right, so let's see if I can do this while showing you guys what I'm doing. There we go, and I do want to kind of monitor how much I'm spilling. All right, good. Nothing came out. So that's good. All right, I just grabbed the cap off the CSF one. Oh, get ready. We're about to get real scientific with this one. All right, so same thing. You're gonna push the tabs towards the outside of the car. Pull this up. That's my little pry guy. Nice. Nothing. That's ninja skill right there. Now, being that we didn't have a drop that spilled, now the thing, while I'm letting this drain, if you take a look, the one from CSF, the cooler, is literally like double the size. So I definitely am going to need to add more. But as you can see, there's not a tremendous amount in there. and we didn't spill any out of the line. So I'm gonna say, you know, a good thing to do is to fill it up like I was already proposing to do. So I'm gonna get some liquid moly. I feel really good that it wasn't like gushing out. Not that it was under pressure, but I feel good that I'm not losing a ton. This is gonna show that I'm not really losing all that much fluid. So this is actually going better than I thought it was going to. So that doesn't happen. All right. Knock on it to get the air bubbles out. All right, so what we're doing, we just filled it up until it started to overflow a little bit. So as far as fluid is concerned, we should be golden. I did spill a little bit of trans fluid on it, so I'm just using some parts cleaner to clean it up before we put this back onto the car. All right, so then what we're gonna do, now that we have this topped off, I am going to clip it in on the one side, trying to spill as little fluid as possible. Then I'm going to swing it up, remove the cap, and then try to quickly plug in the other side. So thanks for giving me these caps, CSF. Perfect. That went in great, and I didn't even spill any. All right. Now, I do have my tray there, so if I spill any, let's figure out what's going to happen before it happens. All right, so if I, all right, good. See if I can get this on without spilling much. Perfect. Perfect.
I never hear you say those words.
I don't think I've ever said those words in car projects. Perfect. That like worked exactly as planned. It's hitting by like a 1/4 inch, which is normal. I mean, all the other heat exchangers I've never had one where I didn't have to modify it a little bit. The plastics at least. So it's not really that big of a deal. Let's talk about this for a second. So what I realized is when I dropped it in that I was hitting this bracket right there, which is the very bracket that holds the new cooler in. So with my chalk marker, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to draw a little line right there. Basically that is where we have to cut. Now I am trying to make this video as DIY friendly as possible. So normally I would use a heat knife, but to make it DIY friendly, I'm just going to try to use this here. Move that way. There we go.
Now we're talking.
Now we're moving. Okay, just gotta make sure I'm not getting up on anything. I'm gonna go down a little more even. Like got a little squirrely here. Look at that. Perfect. See? That is what's up. Down here, you have your connection underneath. Let me see, I need to push it down just a hair more. Perfect. That clipped in. All right, cool. Perfect. All right, cool. So that's in, that's in. you're never going to be able to see this next part. Basically, I just need to make sure that the trans cooler is mounted in the heat exchanger. So let me work with this here. It's a pretty tight space, but it's definitely doable. So let me get this all positioned and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so at this point we got the cooler for the transmission fully mounted, which was a little bit pain in the butt, but I still think it's better to do it that way than if you were to do the trans cooler after the heat exchanger, just because of space and whatnot. You'll notice that the heat exchanger sits a little bit lower than your radiator. This is perfectly fine when you think about it. There's this giant bar right here that's blocking all the air anyway, so it puts it more into the airflow, and it also sits even with the radiator underneath. I mean, really that wasn't that bad. You just had to cut those two pieces of plastic. And as far as heat exchangers are concerned, this is probably the least amount of trimming that I've ever had to do on any heat exchanger that was an upgrade. So not bad at all. So at this point, we are ready to put the car back together. We've already taken care of, like we said before, we've already taken care of, for the most part, the transmission fluid for the cooler here. We do need to fill and bleed the coolant system. So Zach and I are going to put the camera on the tripod. We're going to put the car back together, and then we'll show you how we bleed that. Now, there is a tool we use, and there is an air compressor involved, but still, if you're going to be doing this kind of work on your car, you should probably have one. So let's put the car back together and show you one more thing. My wires here were like way down there, kind of jammed down, so you want to make sure that you pull them out. Actually, no, I do have one other thing. I need to put the little rock guard on. So I'm going to throw the rock guard on. All it is 2 screws. We still have all this opening access area down here, so I'm just going to put them in through here, and then we're pretty much good to go. So let's put this car back together. All right, so now it is time to fill and bleed the coolant system. So when you do this, always check both tanks, because the tanks are connected. So when one goes empty, the other one starts to drain as well. Next to me, I have 50-50 blend of distilled water and BMW OEM coolant. And then I have this little pressure bleeder thing. Highly recommend this. BMW has a little process inside the car where you can like turn the lights on, push the accelerator down and all that. It takes 12 minutes, and you have to do it like 3 times for it to actually do anything. So buy one of these. They're, I don't know, 60, 70 bucks, and a little air compressor, and yeah, you'll be good to go. So maybe we'll make a full video on how to actually do this, but basically you have your air line in, and this is what's going to create the pressure. We have a valve right here. So basically what I'm going to do is I have my air line here. I'm going to let the air go through the system, and that's going to create a vacuum in the coolant system. Once I create a vacuum, I'm going to lock this off, and then if the number stays where it is, it means we don't have any leaks. If it starts to creep back down, it means that we didn't tighten something fully, which would stink because we already put everything back together, but I already tested it and it's fine. And then what you do is, after you seal this off, there's a vacuum in here, so basically it's sucking all of the air out. Then you release this valve, and it's going to pull the coolant in, and it's going to make sure there's no air in the system. So that's the high level overview. So let's do it. Ready? All right, so first step, I'm going to get my air flowing. I have it going through a microfiber towel just to try to muffle the sound so it's not super annoying for you. And then I'm going to open this little lever here, and then you're going to see, I'm going to take it to like 24, 25, or minus 24, minus 25. And then I'm going to seal it, and then we're going to double check to see if we have any leakage. This is a really good indicator if you have some kind of issue. A lot of guys with B58s and S55s have coolant disappearing issues, so this is a good way to kind of track down where it's at. And it also double checks yourself to make sure that you fully clipped everything in. Alright, so we're almost there. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to lock that off, and I'll shut this noise off. So as you can see, we're solid. We don't have any leaks, which is a good thing. And then what's going to happen is, as I move this lever over, it's going to suck in all of the coolant. You can see I use one of these water jugs, the 5 gallons. They work awesome, because as you watch this, you'll see how fast it actually fills. So a lot of times if you're just doing this in a jug, it'll, you know, it'll whip a gallon out of it, and then it starts bringing in air, and you don't want that to happen.
It's thirsty.
Thirsty. Want some Gatorade. All right, so while there's still pressure in this line, I'm going to do it again. Get that back up. Another reason why I have a microfiber towel is you'll start to get spray, because if you look here, it'll flatten the lines, like it'll flatten the coolant lines when you're creating the vacuum. So sometimes it can squirt a little coolant out at you. And then as it fills up with coolant, it'll expand again. But you can see we're flying through coolant over here. It's already down to here. It started up here. So we're almost at, what, 2.5 gallons. So then I'm going to take this off. And if you look, we are filled all the way to the top. So I have a little turkey baster. We're going to just take some out. But I want to check out the other side before I do that. Okay. So let me just throw this cap on here for the time being. They come with these different fittings. All right. And that is how to use a pressure bleeder thing. I don't know if it's called that. A coolant bleeder. Boom. See? Look how much coolant this one car used. It's a lot. So, all right, we need to put the wheels back on, and then we're done. So while we're there, we're upgrading our spacers to the all-new Kies ones, which now they come in this box here, and we include all of the correct size bolts. So I'm actually taking a stud conversion off of this car because it got a little rusty and nasty over time. So I'm going to put the key spacers on with the new bolts, tighten them down, and then this project is 100% complete. I like how earlier I did the wheels like super high off the ground, and now I'm doing them super low off the ground. So as you just saw, adding a full cooling suite to your M340i is a pretty easy job. Take you about a half day or so with mostly basic hand tools besides things like the coolant bleeder and whatnot. But I love the way that everything looks and everything is going to perform, and I think it really works well with my SUPRA manifold. I can't wait to see what this thing does on the track, especially now that we have literally, I think, every cooling option on the market on the car right now. So the fit and finish of all the products was really good. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm very happy with how everything went. Like I said, whereas some cutting that was involved with the heat exchanger, but I've never had a heat exchanger where you didn't have to cut, because when you look at it, like the factory one's like this, and then the upgraded one is so much bigger. So overall, super happy. Can't wait to get out and drive this car. So we got to end this video so we can go for a drive. So once again, my name is Brian. That's Zach behind the camera. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you are interested in any of the products or tools we use in today's video, be sure to see the links in the description. If you haven't done so already, make sure to give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.